said, my name is Sue Whitney. I'm with the U.S. Department of Commerce in Cleveland, and we are the export promotion arm of the U.S. federal government. So today I'm going to talk a little bit on how we help U.S. companies sell overseas, how we help them find buyers, and I'll concentrate a little bit on Asia. Sorry, I'm looking for the buttons. Okay, so just to give you an idea, it's the U.S. Department of Commerce. We're in over 78 countries, and we have over 100 offices throughout the United States. On the U.S. side, we have trade specialists as myself, and we help with the whole export process of helping U.S. companies find buyers overseas. On the overseas sides, in the embassies and U.S. consulates, those are the folks that understand the various industries, what's going on, and who are those buyers that we're trying to link you up with. In the embassies and consulates, we hire two types of individuals. We have the U.S. commercial officers who are U.S. citizens and rotate to a new country every 2 to 4 years. And then we actually hire citizens of those countries to be our industry experts. So we provide a lot of assistance. So, depending on where a company is in the whole exporting, if they're a new company exporting, or if they're, let's say they're in Canada and Mexico, we try to help them find additional markets. But as I said, it's a worldwide network, so we provide market research, we do business matchmaking, and also as a government entity, if there's some unfair trade barriers going on, we try to help knock those barriers down so U.S. companies can export into that country. So if you look on our export.gov website, that is the website that contains a lot of our market information and the whole process of exporting products and services to the United States. But you'll see a lot of market intelligence there. So I just kind of want to point that out. We have something called top markets. So we look at the various industries in the United States, and we have these worldwide reports, maybe the aerospace or automotive. And we have our colleagues that work in those sectors overseas write what's the best prospects for that industry. So if you're in any of these industries, it's a great place to look to figure out where, what are your best market opportunities. We also do something called the Country Commercial Guide, so that every country where we have an office, there's a Country Commercial Guide written, and it's updated every year. And that's how U.S. companies basically do business in that country. And those reports are usually like over 100 pages. So there's a lot of information there. But if you're starting to look at a country, that would be like one of the first places to go. And as I was saying, we do a lot of industry market research as well. What we did is we pulled these from the country commercial guides from the Asian markets. And what we did is we just took like the top 3 best market potentials for the various Asian markets just to give you an idea of what we're looking at as good prospects for U.S. companies. So, what I was mentioning is when we work with U.S. companies, a lot of times reporters will call me and say, what's the best top market? Well, it really depends on the product and what the company wants to do. How experienced are they in exporting? If they're not an experienced company, I'm probably not going to send them to India, China. We'll wait until they get to Canada and Mexico, and then help them along the whole process. So our major service is we actually set up with something called a Gold Key service, and it's where we actually find buyers for a company. So if I go out and meet with a company and, let's say they're making widgets and we help determine that the best market for them is Japan or China or India, we then set up, we have them fill out a questionnaire and it just explains what they do. We send that questionnaire to my colleague that covers that industry over in that market. And then they'll come back and say, yeah, we think that's a feasible product or service in our market. If they come back and say yes, then we set up a conference call with the company and my colleagues overseas, and that's where we have that full discussion of what is the company's value-added proposition. Based on that, then my colleagues will decide whether we can take them on and if we can help them. If we do, we can do an international market check where we say, okay, let's just make sure that this market is good for you. We can do a Gold Key service where we actually set up appointments for the company in country. When we do that, we'll set up maybe 4 to 5 appointments. We'll get an embassy rate at the hotel, get you an interpreter and a driver. So basically, you get off the plane and your whole business trip is set. What's neat about our services is that my appraisal and my colleagues' appraisals overseas is based on the fact that you actually sign an agreement or make sales. Okay, so if we can't help you, we're going to tell you so. And I will tell you that in certain markets, like for instance Brazil, you know, we're first looking at what your landed cost is. And if your landed cost is tremendously expensive and you've got domestic competitors there, we're going to probably tell you that, you know, Brazil's probably not the place to go. Maybe Colombia, maybe Peru, okay? So it's a pretty neat service. We also have an MSP Center. So let's say you're a company, maybe you're part of the infrastructure, and there's some very unfair trading going on, some unfair competition going on. The MSP Center is directly underneath the Secretary of Commerce. So if it's a big enough project, what will happen is we will get the Secretary of Commerce to call the ambassador, whatever country, and then there'll be some dialogues between government to government, trying to make sure that there's a fair, you know, playing field. Our advocacy cases are pretty big, and they're obviously they're very important. So this just kind of gives a little bit of our results, and I was saying that the funny thing about our services is when we actually say, hey, you know, our service helped you grow in that market, we usually only catch the first sale. We're not so good at going back to companies and saying, okay, we helped you find that distributor in whatever market. You know, how much have you sold in the last 5 years? So we very much undervalue what we do. But a lot of companies in the area have used our services maybe one at a time. They'll go to one market, then another market, and then all of a sudden they're in 15, 20 countries with our help. So it just gives you an idea on how we help companies. There's a lot of things that we do that's not on these slides. But, you know, safe to say that if any of your companies have any problems exporting your product overseas, whether it gets stuck at customs, whether a foreign customer doesn't pay you, you know, please give my office a call. We can help you figure out why it's getting stuck at customs. Maybe it's a paperwork issue, maybe it's a bribe, and maybe a phone call from the USMC can help resolve that issue. You know, if your customer is not paying you for whatever reason, we can have the embassy make a polite telephone call to your customer in whatever market. And just the fact that we're making that polite telephone call from the U.S. government sometimes helps get that payment, or they hang up on us. And then we refer you to law firms that there's plenty here to help you get that money back. But that just gives a little bit about what companies say about us. I did it really quick, right? Maybe I talked too fast. You guys have any questions? Yes, thank you. There is. So when we do something that's specifically for your company, let's say we're setting up appointments in market, there is a fee, and they just change the fees. But for our goal key for a small company, which is usually companies with 500 less employees, it's $950. We do background checks; those are in the $450 range. You know, but if it's just helping you with the export process or general counseling or you know, helping you figure out export compliance rules or figure whether you can sell them to Russia, all that's free. And so those are the type of questions that my staff gets all the time, and you determine HS classifications or, you know, what Incoterms should I use or any of that kind of trade thing. That's all free. That's just, so it's only when we're doing something specifically for your company is when we're going to charge you. Thank you.
Excellent services, and it's just phenomenal. In fact, when we took a trade mission to India, the U.S. Department of Commerce has some of the best networks in most of the Asian countries. They are located normally in the embassies at times, and their network is huge. They have the counterpart, Select USA, where if the foreign Asian companies want to come here, they will help connect with economic development agencies for foreign direct investments. So they're a fantastic resource, you know, what do you call, subsidized by the government tax dollars. So very few know, many Asians don't know about it, but it's a phenomenal tool for you to use. So thank you, Sue, really appreciate you. Do a great service. Thank you.